welcome back to the School of Impact podcast. Today we have a very, very special episode. If you've noticed lately, I've been doing more and more interviews. I'm bringing on like absolutely amazing freaking guests to jam on topics that are truly going to help you as a coach, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner in every aspect of life, right? Not always just your business, but every aspect of life. Today, we actually have a very, very special topic. As everybody knows, right? 2022 is right here. There is, everybody this time of year is kind of reflecting on what they did in the past year. And you're either super happy about it, or you're like impartial, or you're a little bit frustrated and a little bit bummed. And so a lot of us are setting goals for the next year, for 2022 and beyond. And so before you set goals, like the title of this episode is Don't Set Goals in 2022 without watching this. And there's a good reason for it. We're going to be breaking this down. So my special guest today is Alex Garzaro. She is an absolutely amazing human being. I think a lot of y'all that are watching or listening to this on the podcast know Alex maybe. And if you don't know her, I don't even know like the best way. Like she's like a jack of all trades. Like she, and she could probably, like I was joking with her before, can do probably a much better introduction, but she ran her own health and fitness business. She had in person, online. She's become really, really known for helping people break through, helping to like help. I don't know exactly how, actually, I do know how she does this a little bit, but even there's some, I'm like, I don't know how you help people break through, but she gets into your subconscious brain. She helps with a lot of the self-sabotaging patterns that a lot of us have as entrepreneurs. And I brought her on here today to help you break through in 2022. So Alex, how did I do? Let's start off with just maybe cleaning up my introduction and how you want the audience to see you.
No, it's great. It's great. I love it. I honestly have a hard time explaining myself because you really don't know what I do until you experience. I'm one of those kind of people that some people refer to me as a mindset coach. Some people refer to me as a life coach. Some people refer to me as a business coach. I was referring to myself as a behavioral business consultant. But the truth is it really comes down to what I do is what I consider God-given, because I did study psychology and I do have a background in psychology, sociology, and the mind and things like that. But it's truly just been something that I have always had, where I can, look at people, listen to people, look at their behaviors, watch their behaviors, and I can see, what's really kind of happening. And then they'll try to explain it to me, and it's very difficult for them to explain. But then here I am, I'm like, oh, this is what you mean. They're like, yes, that's it. And it's like broken down in such a easy, layman terms way that it's the breakthrough that they needed to just gain that clarity. So yeah, I mean, you did as good as as anybody, with my new transition into who I'm becoming, and it's actually who I've always been meant to be. So yeah, good job.
Awesome. And so I know we have a lot to unpack today. And by the way, y'all, if you're tuning in and you've never listened to anything that Alex has put out, like be prepared to have your freaking mind blown, because we're going to be getting into some really cool stuff today that I think that you can bring into this next year to truly help yourself, get more fulfillment and to actually feel like more in congruency or alignment with what you're put on this planet to do. But I want to ask you first, what do you mean don't set goals in 2022? Like, what are you referring to? And like, let's talk about that, because I'm still a little bit, I'm not sure what you mean. And I would love to learn too.
Yeah, so often a lot of people will set goals, and they are lofty, big vision goals. I want to make $1 million. I, want 111 clients, and they're absolutely fantastic. However, you have to identify the type of person that you are before you start setting goals. There's two types of people. A lot of people in the psychology world talk about pain and pleasure. Like, what type of person are you? Do you operate on pain? Do you operate on pleasure? I call it the tortoise and hare mentality. And so before you even set goals, you first have to identify what type of person you are. And before we get into that definition, the reason it comes up is because when people who are more of a tortoise mentality or a hare mentality, and they're setting these big goals and they're not meeting them, they start to defeat themselves. And then these big goals become kind of the focus of the everyday behavior, and they're missing the actual steps that they need to be taking to actually make that big goal happen. So it's almost like if you were to explain it like going from A, B, C, D, they're going from A to Z. At least they're trying to. And so it creates like this friction within you, and it creates this frustration. And then all of a sudden you don't even realize it, but you're not showing up the way you really want to show up. It makes it very difficult for you to feel confident in the content that you're wanting to produce. You start to get really confused on like if this is even meant for you. Are you meant for this? And it's really because the only difference is that you're focusing on the big goal rather than being present in the current goal that you should be, which is that next step to get you to that big goal. So.
Got you. And so what you're saying is that like a lot of people, and I think this is very true for me, but maybe a lot of entrepreneurs, is we're setting too big of goals down the road without yet focusing on like that very next step. That is that what you're saying?
It's not too big of goals. It's that you're focused on that big goal. And if you're focused on that big goal, you're not realizing the small steps that you need to take to actually get to that goal.
Yes.
And so you're trying to leap over kind of like the common sense, the baby steps, the things that you feel like you've already understood. Like, I already got that. I don't need to learn that anymore, or I don't need to do that anymore. And you're trying to like kind of step over what is right in front of you. And so I know I have a tendency, a lot of people have a tendency to do this. They look at something that they have previously maybe learned and they think, okay, I'm good. I understand that. And sure, you understand it. However, if it's showing up for you again, you haven't grasped it. And there's a difference between understanding it and grasping it. And we've had this conversation before. But you can understand something to a point where for you, it's like, yeah, got it. But when you grasp something, you actually can explain it to somebody else. And that's where you want to be with each step. You want to be able to grasp it so that when you can explain it to somebody else, it makes it easier for you to take that step and execute on that step. When we understand something, we don't always execute on the actions for that step. It may feel like it. We may tell ourselves a story that we are because we've heard this over and over and over again. But the truth is, if we broke down the material things in front of us, like the actual action things that we've done, we haven't executed on anything. And that comes from the misunderstanding of understanding something and grasping the concept of that step to execute it in the way that it needs to get you to the next step so that you can get closer to that bigger vision.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I know what I see a lot in the coaching space, and I would argue that this is probably common amongst entrepreneurs, is it's like you said, you may understand something, but you don't know it until you actually grasp it. And how do you know, right? Well, you have the results in your life. You know, somebody can say like, hey, I work out every single day and I do this, but if they're not actually fit or healthy, then they maybe understand the concepts of doing it, but they don't truly know how to be healthy and fit, right? They don't have those habits down. And I think in business, at least in terms of like achieving a goal, it's like there's the strategy, there's the tactics that we often deploy to get to a goal. And then there's like the underlying principles, right? There's like the skill sets, the things that we truly have to know. And it's like if somebody's like, hey, you know, I understand what it takes to get money and to be wealthy, but then they're struggling and they're not wealthy and they're struggling to get money. A lot of times it's because they understand what to do, right? Is what you're saying, but they don't actually know. They don't have the principles in their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They've been exposed to the information, but they haven't physically taken action on the information in a way that propels them forward. However, because we've been exposed to the same information over and over and over again, we emotionally connect to a story saying like, I already get this, I get it. And it almost feels like you've done it. But the truth is, if you look at the execution in material form and metrics in front of you, you haven't. And it's a common thing for a lot of online coaches.
Yeah, 100%. And so what would you say? Like here, and I'll tell you, I guess, what I would do. And then you tell me, like, you break mine apart and tell people what you would recommend to do. What I often do is I'll set a goal, like say, in the coaching business, right? I'll have a goal of like, hey, this year I want to have 150 clients, for example. Then I would take that goal, and it may be a revenue goal sometimes too, right? Attached to that. I would take that goal. That's a large number, and to get to to get there, there's different things I have to learn and know, manage a team, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So I would break that down. So I got to like a weekly or even a daily number, and I would say, okay, this is what I have to do each day. Whether it be I have to, send 20 messages to people, or I have to post stories, and I have to get my content posted. Like I would break things down to a very specific daily action. Is that like what you're talking about, or is there another way you would go about it?
So that's one way to go about it. I think we need to bring up the story of the tortoise and the hare before we kind of move forward, because you have to have an understanding of what I'm talking about. And that story is like perfect. So for those of you, I'm sure a lot of us have heard the story of the tortoise and the hare when we were younger. It's the story where the tortoise, kind of prompts the hare, which is the rabbit who is known to be the fastest in the forest, to a race. And the tortoise says, I'll race you. And the hare laughs, and everybody laughs around like, are you kidding? You're so slow. Like, there's no way that you can beat me. But the hare says, fine, let's do it. And so the tortoise and the hare take off from the start line, and the hare is exponentially like in front of them, in front of the tortoise, and could easily win. However, his ego gets in the way, and he has a tendency to just kind of say like, oh, I'm good. Let me do this. I've done enough. And then kind of sits under a tree, falls asleep, and the tortoise ends up winning. And the tortoise ended up taking it nice and slow, one step in front of the other, no, not looking any other way, not looking, for the hare. And the hare was looking for the tortoise the whole time, right? And so if we go back to the idea of are you a person that operates under pain, or are you a person that operates under pleasure? See, the hare operated under pain. Like he wanted to see like the tortoise. He wanted to, make sure that he was going to, he needed that challenge to pursue the finish line. Whereas the hare operated under pleasure. He didn't need that challenge. He just needed to see that he could put one foot in front of the other and know every step was a win. And he felt that. And so that's the story of the tortoise and the hare. And that's kind of the tortoise and the hare mentality, is like the tortoise takes things nice and slow and operates on victories. So every victory that the tortoise actually achieves is more fuel in his belt to keep going forward. The hare operates under pain, which means every time he misses something, he is going to push harder and faster to make sure that he doesn't miss it again. And so you first have to identify, are you a person that operates under pain or pleasure? And so if you are a person that operates under pleasure, then you want to set goals that you can actually achieve. And you do want to push yourself a little bit, because of course manifestation, there's a challenge and there's a subconscious that kind of keeps us, in a safe space. So I always suggest like whatever your safe number is, kind of just increase it a little bit and start to get those wins under your belts if you're a pleasure person. So for you, if you're a pleasure person and you can achieve what you're setting on those daily goals, like putting out 3, posts, doing 1 live a day, and at the end of the day, you can look back and say, I did that and I won, and feel victorious, you're going to want to do it again tomorrow. But if you're somebody who operates under pain and you don't do that, so you're going to actually subconsciously not allow yourself to do that, right? If you get the same numbers. So you want to kind of push your numbers even higher than somebody who operates under pleasure. So let's say the person under pleasure says, I'm going to do 5 posts a day. I would say, okay, let's do 6 posts a day, right? It's a very subtle number just to increase for yourself to do that little push. And then they do the 6 and it's great. Whereas somebody who operates under pain would say, I want to do 5 posts a day. I would tell them do 10 posts a day, because they're fueled by missing the mark. So operating underneath your behavior is going to be key when setting those goals for yourself.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I love that framework. I love that, like I love that mindset behind like the tortoise and the hare, because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
super important. Sometimes we can become the hare and
Mm-hmm.
be so caught up and so busy and really not achieving,
Mm-hmm.
like running really fast but not achieving.
Yep.
Um,
But yet you
I
have the,
like
the tortoise mentality. So if you're trying to operate as a hare, but with the tortoise mentality, you're going to feel that friction within you like, I'm a failure, I'm not worthy, all that, because you're operating under false pretenses. You're operating under the wrong mentality with a different behavior.
got you. Okay. And I know Tiffany just asked in on the live stream, what is your framework or structure for goal setting for the new year, for a new year?
So I always go backwards to go forward because the past connects us to our future. And so you want to look at your past. What have you done this year? And let's say, this year you learned two different strategies that you actually implemented, which means executed to the fully, and you grasped the concept of these, strategies, and you were able to get 50 clients by the end of the year. Okay, we're going to use clients as our metric point because you should be operating under metrics, not storytelling, which is a common misunderstanding too. So then I'm going to say, okay, I am somebody who operates under pleasure, which means I need to make sure that the goals that I make for next year, I can reach. So if I made 50 this year and I learned two new strategies, okay, if I can learn three new strategies next year, then that will actually push me forward. And then I'll probably aim for 75, so about 50% of my current achievement. And so then I break down the 75 clients by 12 months. So if I want 75 clients, so this is in addition to my current 50, right? Because I was able to get 50 new clients. So I'm going to push myself to get an additional 75 clients on top of my 50. So I want 75 additional clients divided by 12 months. So I need about 7 clients a month. Now, if you again are somebody who operates under, pleasure, you want to make sure that you are setting that number. So I would probably go 6 because technically the number is 6.25 by using the number 75. So I would say I would aim for 6 clients, not technically 7. And then I would break that down divided by 4. So I need about 2 clients a week to actually make that happen. Now, this is with me understanding that I have these two strategies down and I'm going to have to learn a new strategy. So this is a typical way that a lot of coaches break it down. However, if you still need to learn a new strategy, you may not want to break it down evenly within 12 months. You may want to actually break it down to where at the end of the year you're pushing for more because at the beginning of the year you're actually learning different strategies to increase more. So if that's the case and I'm saying, you know what? I'm making good money. I'm good at 50 clients because I'm kind of stretched right now, which means if I'm kind of stretched right now with my 50 clients, then I have to actually put in some procedures, some operating systems that make things more automatic for me to actually step out. That's a misconception that people aren't looking at is like, what is it that's happening in my business right now, right? So what did you do in the past year? Great, you got your number. You know you can do 75. But now it's okay, am I stretched in my business or can I take on more clients right now? So if you can take on more clients, great, then divide it evenly by 12. But if you know that you're stretched at 50 clients and you're already feeling like burned out, some pressure, some stresses, then there's probably some extra strategies that you need to bring in, which means probably the first 30 days to 60 days, you're not actually bringing in any clients, but rather bringing in some structures into the business. And so it's identifying what you need to do for yourself to reach that goal, right? So you got to be careful with kind of doing it an overall 12 months. So if I know I need to learn something in the next 60 days to put in a structure, that's going to give me 10 months to actually get 75 clients. So I'm going to do that. So I need 7.5 clients. But here's the thing, if I put in these structures within the first 60 days of the year, I'm going to have more free time. And if I have more free time, it's going to be a lot easier for me to go get 7 clients a month rather than the 4, right? So it's identifying your behavior, then identifying what you were able to achieve in the past, and then saying, pain or pleasure. Do you push? Do you not push? And then identifying what it is that you actually did to get those. So you learn 2 systems, which means you're probably going to need to learn another structure or system inside the business to keep it afloat. So you want to kind of look at your whole year in that aspect. Am I actually going after clients, or am I building structures in my system? Because as the solopreneur, as someone who's a single op business, you will have a harder time actually creating the structures alone. So you're going to have to start to learn to delegate. And if you haven't delegated before, that's going to be a whole other system that you need to learn. And I made this comment in a group because somebody was asking for a VA. So this can be maybe what you're looking for in your structure, right? I need somebody to come and help me for the first 60 days. So if you're looking for a VA, a lot of misconceptions is like, I'm going to hire a VA who already knows. Yeah, they know how to VA work, but they don't know how to work with you yet. And you have to look at your business as you being the CEO, which means if you're the CEO, you have to have operation procedures for this VA to actually come in and learn how to operate in your business. And a misconception is like, I could just hire a VA and they're going to know, they're going to get it. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of coaches end up firing VAs within a couple of weeks because they're like, oh, they didn't get it. Or even 30 days, they're like, oh, they didn't get it. So my question is to you, did you put into place something that they can learn from, right? So if you don't have like a program to train your VA, maybe that's the first 30 days of what you're doing in the new year. Creating a program to train a VA. What is it that I do that I want somebody to take over? Okay, let me record myself doing that. Okay, now I'm on day 30. Let me look for a VA. And then the next 30 days is training that VA to have your voice and have your structure and know exactly what to do. And then now you go on and you get to move forward. So training a VA, if you haven't set up the structures for it, usually takes about 60 days to actually bring on somebody who has VA experience, but then can actually be your VA and understand your business and your vision for your brand.
Yes. And I love everything you're saying with this right now. Like, I think something that sparked up in my mind is what, like, the process right now around goal setting is to like break things down to where you know exactly what has to get done, and then you're applying actions. And then throughout the year, there's going to be ebbs and flows, right? Part of the year, you're going to be, maybe the first month, 2 months, you're going to be developing maybe systems or learning a new skill or strategy. And then after time of applying that skill or strategy or having that new structure or system in place, then all of a sudden you'll start to get more clients in the example that we used. What came up for me, and I don't know if this is somebody like that's watching this or in the audience right now, but something that popped up for me is like a lot of times there's like objections to setting goals, where I think in our head, it's like we've set goals. Maybe a coach has literally done this process or something similar. And they're like, yes, I only need to have, 5 clients a month. And then they don't fulfill it. Mm-hmm. What I often find, and, speaking from experience, that sometimes when we set goals, they're not really our goals. Mm-hmm. Right? Just the same as sometimes the message we speak isn't really our message. It's just what we think we should be doing because we see other people doing it. Like, yep. Can you speak to that? Because I think that's like something that would prevent somebody from actually going through this process.
Yeah, 100%. So when you're setting these goals, the question you need to ask yourself is like, why do I want this goal? Right? And so I've asked this question. I was doing a speaking engagement and I asked this question: how many of you guys want to make $1 million? And right here, if you guys are listening, how many of you guys want to make $1 million? You can say me in the comments. You can message me and Jason if you're watching this on the podcast or listening to this on the podcast. But for many of us, we have been conditioned to have that as a goal, making $1 million as kind of the first milestone. But why? Why do you want to do that? So I asked that question and every single one of them said that they wanted to have financial freedom. Great. Financial freedom. Okay. What is financial freedom for you? See, you have to keep going and breaking down even that question. So if you want 5 clients a month to equal whatever amount, so 5 clients times 12, we're going to do, 60 clients times, let's just say 1,000, you're charging $1,000 for your program. You want an additional $60,000 to your income. Okay. So why? Why is that important to you, right? Financial freedom. Okay, let's break it down. Financial freedom because I want to buy properties. This was a common answer, so I'm just giving you guys a common answer. I want to buy properties so that I can eventually, retire and just live off my real estate investments. Beautiful. So why are you waiting to make $60,000 to start doing that? You can do that now. If you're making at least I'd say probably 4 to 10 grand a month, you can already start to invest in real estate. There's no need for you to actually wait till you're a millionaire to start creating your financial freedom. So ask yourself, this goal that I'm setting, why am I setting it? What is the intention behind it? What is the purpose behind it? And why am I waiting to reach this number to actually start going after this goal that's behind the reason I want to make X amount?
And
yeah, go ahead.
And does it match your life, what you want for your lifestyle?
Yep. Yeah, so that's another thing. I know myself, I was very much conditioned to believe that I wanted to be a millionaire. And it was so funny because I was so caught up in the idea of being a millionaire that I missed the fact that I'm already a multimillionaire. And I told this story a while back. I got lost in the vision. I got lost in that big goal, right? Make $1 million, make $1 million, that I wasn't actually looking at my whole picture. I wasn't looking in my past. I was only looking in my future. That's why one of the first steps is to look backwards, right? And so when I started to do this and I started to look backwards, I was like, holy crap, I'm already a multimillionaire. I've already kind of achieved what I wanted to do with quote unquote when I made that $1 million. So what's the point of me, having these stresses? What's the point of me doing this and operating under this scarcity and operating under this pressure when I could be operating under ease and fulfillment and, just excitement to serve? And so when we have that big goal pressure that's not even ours, you start to feel all those stresses and things like that. And then when you look backwards, you probably have already achieved a lot of those goals. You just didn't realize it because you weren't tracking the metrics or you weren't actually going back and looking at them. And so you maybe collected this goal from a new group that you were in and other people talking about being millionaires and wanting $1 million and financial freedom. And you kind of inherited it naturally, subconsciously, and here you are chasing it. And the truth is, is that even what you want? Is that the type of lifestyle that you want when you get there? Well, first you have to identify what type of lifestyle do you want when you get there. And then second is do I even want that? Because there's a lot of things behind having that type of financial income, right? And so financial freedom's great. But if you want to make $1 million and financial freedom's your thing, I invite you to actually think bigger. And rather than saying I want financial freedom, how about you say, I want to feed 10 families? Because every employee underneath you has a family. And when you start to actually operate from a place of service like that, it starts to transition your energy source from chasing to attracting. You're no, I'm doing this because I want to help feed 10 families, which means I need 10 employees, which means I need to make X amount of money so that I can have these 10 employees and they can feed their families and they can actually live in service and fulfillment with what they want to do in the business that I created.
Yes. And there's this line that I learned from a book. It's called, if you guys want to pick up this book, it's called The Abundance Book. It's a little small green book. And inside the book, there's a line that just sticks with me where it's if you focus on the outcome, you diminish the cause.
Yep.
Right. So therefore, if you're focusing on purely money, then you diminish the cause that produces that money. And that's where a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up, is in the lack of not having it or not really wanting their goal. Somebody saying, I want to do 100K per month.
Can we stay on that, the cause for a second?
Yeah.
because that's a big thing. Because if you look at like fitness trainers and a lot of people in the online business world, like think about why you started your own business in the first place. Like, why? Right? They always talk about the why. Like, why did you start your business in the first place? Usually it's because you wanted to help people like you were. You wanted to help people not have to go through the struggles of the weight loss. You have the secret, you have the key for specific individuals, and all they have to do is sign up with you to get that key and then skip all those steps that cause stress and failures and setbacks and years of frustration of trying to figure it out. And so you initially got into this with a pure heart of service, not even knowing probably what you could make. Maybe some of us did. I know I didn't know what I could even make financially when I stepped into this world. And especially when I stepped into the world of fitness, like I was just literally in it to make a couple, $1,000. And Jason and I have talked about this. It was like, I just wanted to make $1,000 to, provide for my family as a, like an extra. And then all of a sudden there's $10,000 coming in monthly. And then all of a sudden there's 15,000 coming in monthly. And then you start to get lost in like the group saying, I made 20, I made 50, I made 60. And now we're in the service of money versus in the service of serving.
Yes.
And so, kind of remind yourself, get back to the root of what and why you got started.
Yeah, and keep those passions fired up, right? Like, as we get caught up, like even like what Alex and I are doing right now, like this interview, like there's nothing on our mind about trying to make money doing this. Like we're literally just doing this, just like I'm sure as you would as a coach, if you're listening to this, to help people, right? To help.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not even a thought on our mind that like this kind of interview is going to make money. It's just like we're like, hey, we should do a podcast together. Just give, right? That's kind of the mindset that the more you can like be in that mindset where you're not lacking, right? It's like, oh my God, I've got to get through. Like you're not lacking, you have it already. You just have to stay focused, right? You just have to realize that when you put your attention into that cause, into what you love, into the reason, like Alex just said, why you got started doing this, all of a sudden, you're going to be happier. You're going to be less stressed, and you're going to notice that things start coming easier, right? It stops feeling like an uphill battle. It starts feeling like more of an attraction process because you're in that higher vibration.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So before you set goals this year, make sure you're identifying that first they're your goals. And then, second, that you're looking backwards to produce the goals moving forward and not getting lost in the stories that you're telling yourself because somebody else did that and now you've inherited, their goals and their beliefs and things like that you're staying true to yourself and where you are and not skipping the steps because you feel like you're in the same position with somebody else. And this is another common misconception is that like goals being set based off of somebody else achieving something. And I think it's great to look at somebody as an inspiration and like they achieved it, I can too. And 100% you can. The only thing is it may not be in the same amount of time, the same time frame, because you haven't identified what their past experiences were and what they learned and what they're grasping now to have gotten them there. And so,
Exactly.
if you're going to set goals based on somebody else, make sure you interview that person and say, hey, what were the things that you needed to know to actually get you here? And what were the things that you implemented? See, those are two different questions. And usually the people that are making that kinds of money, they don't really sit there and tell you. They'll say, go get a coach, which is a great thing, right? Because that's the coach's service, not their service. It's not that person's desire to want to teach the things that they learned to get them to where they are. It's the person that they hired to actually teach them the things that got them where they are. And so this is another thing that I was actually working on. This is totally off topic, but a lot of times we do have coaches and yet we're seeking answers elsewhere outside of where we should be seeking answers and assistance and having our coach actually help us goal set, right? For us personally. And staying inside of our circle and staying inside of that group for as long as your term is. And rather than being in this circle and then asking that circle and asking that circle and asking that circle, when you start to do things like that, when you're goal setting, you start to get really overwhelmed, and then it almost paralyzes you to a point where no goals get set, and or goals get set but they're crazy out of
This
alignment with like where you are as a
that
person.
that can almost be a whole nother podcast
Yeah,
episode, is
it's
on
really
like
good.
like not trusting yourself
Yeah.
and falling for, so many coaches. And like I say this like not to make fun of, but just to like shine light onto, is that a lot of coaches, and I used to be one of them, and sometimes I still am, like there's really good marketing out there. Sometimes we're just constantly being marketed to,
Mm-hmm.
instead of being the ones marketing our stuff. It's like, oh, we see somebody like, oh, you could grow a 7-figure brand in under 12 months. Here's how I did it. Here's how you can do it too. And
Yeah.
we get lured in. Like people get lured in by that, right? And so that's a whole nother episode probably on that. I mean, that comes
Yeah,
down to like self, like trust issues, things like with yourself, right?
yeah.
Um,
Self-sufficiency, um a lot of childhood things going on with that one. um
yes. Yeah.
on why you're
Um,
chasing that. But and even intrigued by that, you know. And I do think that some coaches that are preaching that, they do have clients who have experienced those results, and it's absolutely fantastic. But to, you know, the extent that you have to make sure that you're looking at your situation and you're looking at where you are right now and where you've been and then what you're capable of doing moving forward, right? So here's another example, is that um I'll I I'll have fitness trainers be like, "Well, I want to help moms." And I'll ask, "Well, are you a mom?" And they're like, "Well, no." I go, "Not to be rude, but it gets very difficult to help somebody when you don't understand somebody."
yeah.
And so you're trying, you know, to maneuver things, and not that you can't. If you want to look into that world and you want to investigate and you want to learn that world, go for it, and then use that as the experience to help these women that are moms, right? But and this is going to be a whole other topic too, right? Staying in your lane, right? So if you're entering these programs that are promising 7 figures or whatever, and you're seeing these people who are helping moms, and you were helping, you know, let's say single women, and then you jump ship to help moms because you see this person's, you know, winning, that's something that you want to question about yourself. Like, why did you feel the need to jump ship? What was happening there? You know, was it income that was, you know, driving you? Are you in
Mm-hmm.
scarcity right now with income? Is there something that you need to handle first, right? And going back to those millions, right? It's not what you do with $1 million, it's what you do with $1. So staying true to your path long enough for the path to actually expose you. You hear that? Staying true to your path for your path to expose you, not the other way around. And so when you start to stay true long enough, people are going to know exactly who you are and what you do. But if you keep teetering, it gets very difficult for people to know who you are and what you do. Now, I'm all for pivoting if that's what, you know, is in alignment with where you are right now. A lot of times we are in a fight within ourselves because we are not being true to where we should be and where we should be going. And there's a lot of us that have these internal desires to be outside of what it is we're doing, but we have the comfort of what we're doing keeping us where we are. And so, you know, you have to decide and make a decision, because that's really what it comes down to, that decision. Am I going to stay true to who I am and where I am right now and fight through this? Or am I going to go all in and pivot into what it is I want to do? Let's say it is working with moms, then be about that, right? Go all in with that. Learn about that if you're not a mom and you really want to help them. Because let me tell you, it's a different world being a mom and not being a mom. And I've helped multiple people, but majority of people that when I was in financial or in fitness, it was moms, because that's who related to me and that's who I could relate to.
And like to reframe the struggle, right? A lot of people jump ship in the struggle, but the valley,
Mm-hmm.
you have to go through that valley. You have to
Yeah.
go through that struggle. right? To be able to get to your peak, to be able to get to it. And so like some questions that I always ask myself are like, where am I taking people? Like, where are we going? First of all, and if you're clear on where you're going and who you're taking with you, right, on that, in this guide, as a guide on this journey, and then it's like that second question is, it's like, do you believe that your success is inevitable? Because it's true. But there's another side to that coin that most people just don't want to face, or so is failure. Like, failure is inevitable when you're going for any goal. Like, it is. You will fail. Like, you're supposed to fail.
Here's the thing with failure. Failure is basically repeating something that we haven't grasped yet. So that's what failure is. Failure is putting us back in the same position so that we can learn something new or learn what we missed. And that's it. So it's really not like failing, to be completely honest. Like they say, it's a lesson. Yes, it's a lesson, but it's not even really a lesson. It's just, you need to be right there because you haven't, let's take it as a book, right? You haven't finished the book yet to actually get the answer. And so and
most people just move on to a different book.
Yeah. Whatever you believe in, the world, God, universe, telling you like, hey, we haven't learned what we need to learn yet. You need to wait, right? We're going back to our goal setting. You're trying to jump from A to Z, and I'm trying to get you A, B, C, D, so that when you get to Z, you blow everybody out of the water.
Yeah.
But if you try to go from A to Z right now, you are going to sink and not swim. And it's going to feel that way.
Yeah, and that's so true. And, like, one of the gifts that actually Alex really helped bring out of me, and talking about pivot, where, we were doing pretty well in our online fitness business. And I made the pivot because I knew that I was supposed to be helping entrepreneurs. And Alex really helped me see that. And it comes down to like these questions of like thinking in terms of, I lost my train of thought for a second. I don't know where I was going with that, but it was gonna be good.
In terms.
Yeah, it was gonna be good.
Yeah, thinking in terms, but more so listening to yourself, right? So all this has a lot to do with goal setting, because all this has to do with self, right? You have to sit down with yourself, if you haven't already, and identify your goals, identify your desires, identify what, and this is why, like, my whole concept is start with your what, not start with your why. Your why and your how will reveal itself when you understand your what. What is it you want to be known for? What is it you want to offer? And what is it you can provide based off of your experiences? Because honestly, when you are operating based off of experiences and understanding from the grasping concept, not just the surface level understanding concept, but the grasping concept of like, been there, done that, don't do this kind of thing, right? It really allows you to come forward with not confidence, with conviction.
Conviction. Yes.
Conviction. And so much so that if somebody tries to convince you otherwise, there is no convincing you of anything else besides what you have decided is what it is. Yes. And that's that.
Yeah. And that's like the confidence. There's the confidence to try something. And then there's the confidence that comes from unconscious conviction or unconscious competence, right? Where you have that conviction, like it's just there, and I remember what I was going to say. So I don't open loop the audience. And I remember what I was going to say. It's that like so many, what I see in coaches, like this is my gift. Alex has a gift. Trust me. It should get into your head. Like, reach out to Alex. She has an incredible gift. One of my gifts is to see things in other people that they don't yet see in themselves. Like I'm like a talent agent. I could see the talent. I could see the things that are happening. And I see so many freaking coaches that are so close. I can see they have so much potential and they're so freaking close to being able to they're just like, but they stay on that surface level. they never truly get into that deep level, because like Alex just said, it's like a book. They don't finish the book and they're on one book, and then they decide that it's not working. So they throw that book away and they go into another book of their business, of their life. And they never finish the book. Right. So like, I encourage you listening, watching this right now. It's like stay true to your passions and know that like it can happen like at the drop of a dime. Like I was freaking bankrupt just a few years ago. And within 1 year, which really started happening, there was 7 years in the making of the grind. Things changed for me. Things can change for you too. So anyway, we got to land this plane. We actually have our mindset coaching call, which Alex is going to be, I don't even want to call it a mindset call. Like a clarity reprogramming call in 5 minutes. So we got to land this plane. What's up, Ben? There's two Bens in the house, Benjamin, and then Ben. If you think I'm talking to you, then I'm talking to you. He said, "Are you talking to me, bro?" So let's land this. Any last thoughts? Any last little recap, and then where should people go to find more about you and about what you do and what you talk about? So any last little thoughts here, and where can people find more about you?
Okay, so just to kind of go over, like before you set your goals, make sure you're sitting with yourself and identifying your what, like what it is you want to be known for, what it is you offer, and what it is that you can share based off of your experiences. When you understand that, look at your past. What did you do this past year? And when I say look at your past, I say look at what you have executed all the way through. Not executed partially, not executed in some kind of way, but truly executed all the way through to a point where like you could literally explain it to somebody else. And that comes down to structures or systems in your business, and then identifying the amount of people that you've actually helped, and then deciding, am I somebody who operates in pain or pleasure? And when you decide that, then set the goal, your big vision goal for next year, and then break it down based off of the understanding of your past. And do I need to create any structures, and make sure to incorporate ample time for you to do that, 30, 60 days for you to actually, create those systems and structures. Because if you can take your time and you can create a solid foundation, and I know it's hard to do. We want to be the hare, we want to run, and we want to like get it done. But the hare, remember, loses. And the tortoise wins slow, consistent, steady steps all the way through. So be patient with yourself, because what is meant for you will never pass you by. It's all about just waiting for you to actually create and become the person that you need to be so that you can live the future that you want.
I love that. And where can people find more about you?
I usually hang out on Instagram, Alex Garzaro. I am in a awakening moment, so you'll see a lot of transitional stuff, but feel free to message me on Instagram or Facebook.
She's got some hilarious reels, so you can check out some of her reels. I don't know if she's doing them right now, but she's got the reels game down. Awesome, y'all. So remember this, guys. I like to end every single episode like this because this needs to be said. There's so many people right now on social media, and there's constantly fear, negativity, scarcity being pumped out. So your very audience member, your very ideal client, they could be getting dim right now. Like everything is being pumped out. Like their inner light is becoming dim. There's depression, there's weight gain, there's relationship problems, all kinds of things happening, and people are feeding into this negativity on social media. But you have a message inside of you, and that message contains a passion. It contains an enthusiasm for helping others, and that is a light. And when you can get out there, put yourself out there on social media and speak that message, speak that light out to the world, it will help diminish some of this darkness, because where light shines, there cannot be darkness. So remember, don't be afraid to speak your message, because right now your message matters now more than it ever has before. So as always, Remember to have faith, stay focused, and take aligned action. We'll catch you next time.